So hello to everyone, and thank you for joining us for this Fortude webinar. Forget about tomorrow. Are you ready for today? So many organizations in the consumer products industry are so focused on how they're going to take care of tomorrow that they've actually forgotten about how they're taking care of today, and the changes are happening today. My name is Bob McKee. I have quite a lengthy background in the consumer products industry, mostly in fashion. I spent 28 years working in textile and apparel operations for a number of different organizations, always in senior management. I made a transition a number of years ago from textiles and apparel to software, and it made sense. Everywhere I had worked in my 28 years, I had implemented software to make the operations I was working for more efficient. So I joined a company called Intensia, which merged with an organization called Lawson, which was then acquired by Infor. And I am now a happy member of the Fortude organization. The topics we're going to cover are really all about the changes, the issues that are taking place, and we're going to cover this over very quickly. I hope to do this in less than 30 minutes. But frankly, the more you talk about something, the more you talk about something. Something that we all need to take into consideration relative to the industry is that the industry is going through a number of changes, and the lines are all blurring. This is not news. This has been happening for easily the last 2 decades, with an ever-increasing effort for organizations to take a bigger position in the industry. Manufacturers are becoming brand owners are becoming wholesalers, and wholesalers are becoming retailers, and everybody's trying to verticalize as much and as far as they possibly can. The traditional lines between retail, brand, and supplier are all changing, if not just disappearing totally. You see more and more of it all the time, more and more organizations, and if you can't physically be the totally vertical, people are becoming virtually vertical with strong alliances and creating supply networks, and networks that go from consumer all the way back to concept. It is the driving force in the industry today, and we're going to talk a little bit about some of the organizations that are bringing that about, and the organizations that are the ones leading. So as we move on, we're going to talk a little bit about this current state of changing, the state of change for the consumer products industry. And again, we're going to focus a lot on food and fashion, because I have my greatest experience there, so I'm afraid you're going to have to accept the fact that that's what I think I know the best. Craig Ferguson has a song that he created. If anybody knows, he's a Scottish singer, actor, comedian, and in his theme song, a line is, "Tomorrow is just your future yesterday," and I thought that was just brilliant. Because when you think about it, when we're talking about, are you ready for today, organizations have to recognize that time is moving very quickly, especially in this industry. We're in a situation where we're dealing with dynamic and fundamental change, that the consumer is the one driving the bus. That all around us, and what I mean by saying dynamic and fundamental, the changes are happening fast, and they're happening to the entire ecosystem, and they're fundamental. It's going back to the DNA of an organization. You've got to be prepared to make substantial changes and not just think that you're dealing with business as usual. The consumer is the king. The consumer is the one. The demand cycles and all are really becoming even less predictable than they've ever been, but people are trying to deploy yesterday's logic in today's problems, thinking that, well, it's really all the same. This is just a fad. It's going to change. Organizations have survived for decades and decades just not making fundamental changes, but we're at a point where that's going to be required. This unpredictable nature and the huge demand swings not only affect product, but they affect business model. and you have to be prepared to make amendments to your business model as you move forward. These are big changes for organizations. You know, those organizations that are inclined to say, I don't really want to make this kind of change. I heard a comedian at one point in time, again, I think it was Billy Connolly, that made a statement that people today, they want what they want the way they want it, not just in product, but in every other sort of experience. It's, I want what I want the way I want it, and that's it. Be prepared to give it to me or I'll go somewhere else. People are looking for, consumers today are looking for personalization. And that personalization is more than just in product, it's in shopping experience as well. And the whole idea of shopping, you know, today's consumer has separated the decisions of shopping and buying. Shopping is about due diligence. It's about experience. It's about education. It's about knowledge. It's data gathering. The actual point of buying can be totally disassociated from the shopping experience, and we have to recognize that these things are happening. These phenomenon are changing how it is that we work. Brands and retailers in many cases are struggling to keep up with these shifts in behavior, and many believe that it's just going to pass, and I just don't believe that's the case, because we get further and further embedded into this. Consumers want what they want, and they expect to be delivered to them the way they want. And they should be able to, because at the end of the day they're voting, and they're voting with their dollars. The shift in consumer behavior is more than just a decision between bricks and clicks. You know, bricks and mortar versus online. And so many organizations say, well, you know, online's just, it's going to go away anyway. They're not really making any money. Well, Mr. Retailer, neither are you. But then whatever affects the interaction point between the consumer and whomever, whether it's traditional or online or retail, whether it's bricks and mortar or any number of things, there's a reason why the industry analysts have started referring to it as omni-channel, because it's more than a binary decision. It's more than just I'm going to go to a store or I'm going to go online. And as this continues to expand, we're going to find more and more omni-channel experiences coming at us. More and more consumer behavior has to be determined and analyzed. We have to recognize that more and more people are shopping with their phone today. Certainly we're seeing things like interactive television. We're seeing other opportunities where you're changing not only the delivery model or the purchase model, but the way in which people are getting the product and perhaps even using it. You know, there's all kinds of different opportunities. You know, imagine that an organization becomes the next TripAdvisor, but in consumer products. TripAdvisor is wildly successful. They don't really, they're unassuming. They're just giving you advice. Imagine a TripAdvisor, and certainly there are tons of blogs out there relative to food and fashion and so on and consumer products, but a TripAdvisor that actually becomes a site for how to, where to, and how to go about finding what it is you want. Social media has such a huge influence, and so many organizations are only using social media in a very superficial way. The reality is things like Snapchat, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and so on are huge influencers in ways that you're not imagining. It's more than just a place to push a commercial message. It's more than just a place to give somebody a coupon. So, you know, what's going to happen? We're talking about back to the future here. Those who are responding to the consumer are the ones leading the pack. And those organizations truly are game changers, channel masters, and what I call planet masters. Channel masters are those organizations that do the absolute best that they possibly can at doing certain things. They own the industry in many ways. Certainly Amazon and Alibaba, they're not competitor directly because they're in two different geographies in a matter of speaking, but they're organizations that have taken over. I am a Prime member. The biggest boon that Amazon ever created was a Prime membership. Yes, they give free delivery, but the reality is they force you into a situation where you buy the Prime product, and the price is always a bit higher. They're covering themselves. Obviously, they're making a lot of money doing it that way. Then you've got the value chain masters. Those guys are real game changers. Zara is probably the best example of a value chain master. They go all the way from concept clear through delivery to the consumer, and they're constantly changing things. They've got strong demand, and the amazing thing about them, if you look at them financially, Zara has not had an unprofitable quarter. All the organizations that were struggling through the economic downturn that swept around the globe, Zara still made money. Zara was still having positive sales quarter after quarter after quarter. They're an amazing organization when it comes to their approach to things. You have other organizations that have tried similar sorts of things. Uniqlo, as a corporation, has done a very good job of creating a business model similar to, but not exactly the same. I suggest everyone should study those organizations and see how it's possible to find your own way of doing things. You can't be the next Zara. Maybe you can, but figure out what it is and how it is they went about. How are they so successful? They understand product. They understand consumers. They understand delivery. They are putting the consumer in the center of their world in many ways, and they're then fulfilling the desires of that consumer. And then this last group is a group that I think is going to become very important, because if you look at some of the aspirational wishes of millennials, it's really about, we have to take a different view of our planet. And I'm referring to those as planet masters or ethics masters. The organizations like H&M, Patagonia, Everlane. Everlane's probably the best example. Both H&M and Patagonia have dirty clothes in their closet that they have to atone for. They have to recognize they haven't always been as good as they want to become. But you have to give them an attaboy or an attagirl for the fact that they are trying to change their way and become more ethical organizations and create a much greener approach and a transparent approach. Everlane, if you go to the Everlane site and you take a look at what it is, they not only will tell you where it is this stuff's made, they go back as far as they can. The cotton came from here, the seed for the cotton came from there, it was spun into a yarn here, it was dyed, finished, cut, sewed, and so on, and they show as much of the value chain as they have access to or as they can find. Then they also give you cost information. Well, from here to here it costs that, from here to here it costs that, and from here to here it costs that. That today is a kind of a revolutionary approach to things. It's good that organizations are taking these sorts of things, these sorts of approach. When you go back to Amazon, and recently Amazon announced they were acquiring a company called Whole Foods Market. And a lot of the business analysts have talked about, well, Amazon, of course, they're an online retailer and they've done very well at that, but now they recognize they need to get into bricks and mortar, so obviously they acquired Whole Foods so they could compete in bricks and mortar. They're obviously going to use that as a position to start putting more of their products into those stores. I think that's nonsense. Personally, my guess is that the reason that they made that acquisition was so that they could get into the distribution business, so they could be closer to, and actually they've been pushing their Amazon Fresh. They're not going to be able to have a point at which they've got cold food storage in these bricks and mortar locations. It's going to be a whole new level of how they can kit. They're looking at organizations like Blue Apron and the success they've had of taking all the components you need to make a dinner, putting it together in a box and shipping it to you. So now you'll be able to be the cook you always wanted to be, and Amazon's going to be the one that brings it to you, and it's going to be coming from a Whole Foods Market location. That's more likely the reason. They are not going to use the acquisition of Whole Foods as just a way to become another bricks and mortar retailer. They're going to do something that is going to be somewhat revolutionary. They're constantly changing things. In addition to that, Amazon has also announced Amazon Prime Wardrobe, where it's a try before you buy. They'll curate a collection for you, and curation is something that's very important. It's important to recognize that they're listening to consumers and responding to consumers. Now, they're so big that sometimes they really do miss the mark, and sometimes they do have big problems. But at the end of the day, Amazon is really all about trying to determine and find the niche and what it is that will make them most successful, and then going after it and actually coming up with the way in which to be successful. Now, a big part of this is how efficiently you can fulfill the consumer demand. You know, consumers, again, they want what they want, the way they want it, delivered the way they want it to. But realistically, a long time ago, there was a guy, a retailer here in Chicago, I live in Chicago, that Marshall Field's was a big department store, and Marshall Field said, give the women what they want. One of his disciples, a guy named Harry Selfridge, who left the United States and went to England and started a big department store in London, carried forward that same attitude. Give the women what they want. Now, that's not meant to be sexist, but it's, you know, give consumers what it is they want. It's not that difficult. For a long period of time, the approach that retail has taken has been more of, well, they're going to want what we want them to want. No, it doesn't really work that way, and consumers have recognized they have the power to make the entire value chain change to their wishes. Curation is one of those things that has become very important. You see a lot of organizations now who are creating the ability. It's more than being a personal shopper. It's beyond that. It's going to the next level, curating collections and sending them to you. And not a matter of whether or not you're going to want it. It's sort of like, I made myself a note. It's like Aunt Bernice. I had an Aunt Bernice, and my Aunt Bernice knew me and understood me better than anybody. And she would buy clothes for me periodically, and she was never wrong. She always got stuff that I absolutely wanted. This whole concept of moving into curation is one of really just deciding what it is this individual wants, understanding their taste, their requirements, their needs, and being spot on every time. It's exactly, you need to fulfill the desire of the consumer. We also need to take a much bigger, better, holistic view of the value chain. The value chain going all the way, ending with the consumer and the consumer's acceptance and the consumer's happiness. It's not a matter of delivering things up to the consumer, it's delivering things to the consumer and making sure they love it. Consumers have a voice, and they vote with that voice, and that voice is dollars. That voice is money. They tell you whether or not they're happy with your performance or not. Consumers demand more, and it's more than just product fulfillment. It's the product selection and the product quality and everything else that you deliver to them. Yes, not all consumers. There are still consumers who are driven by throwaway. That's the consumer market that you're going after then. You're dealing with purely fast fashion. It's cheap and deep. It's, I'm going to use it, I'm going to toss it. For many organizations in the industry, the expression at the end of the day actually is going to come true. You've got companies like American Apparel, you've got the Kmart Sears Holdings Group, and who else? There are lots of others. They're happening around the globe. They're simply falling away. Rather than reorganizing, they are simply dying. It is the nature of the industry. It's the nature of the beast. Now, at this all boils down to, how is it that I deal with this? How is it that I can actually survive? Systems are crucial. You have to have the information, because you have to be making decisions way faster than you ever did before. And those decisions have to be as accurate as they can possibly be. We don't have the luxury of extremely long time frames. A lot of people in the industry get very prickly when I talk about lean manufacturing. The reality is lean manufacturing has nothing to do with manufacturing and everything to do with efficient processes. This is all about trying to shed yourself of those process inheritance. Well, we've always done it this way. This is the way we operate. Well, we have to do it quite like this. Well, that's not really true. The reality is you're going to have to shed yourself of those processes and move forward, develop the systems, and figure out how it is that you're going to fulfill the desire of your consumer. No matter where you are, what position you hold in this value chain, everybody has to be focused on the happiness of the consumer. Then also, when it comes to systems and system support, when it comes to information systems, you are the consumer. So you have to turn that same statement that I made before. You want what you want, when you want it, and the manner in which you want to receive it. It is critically important that you and your service departments understand what it is they need to do to be able to fulfill your requirements and make you a happy consumer. The only thing that will be, make a big different change is better, faster intelligence. I work for and represent Fortude. We are a professional services organization, and we work with M3. Our objective is to provide greater time to value, lower time to value, lower time to assimilation, which is really the critical component, and strong partner support. As an organization, we provide Infor application consulting and development. In fact, we've won an award, the APAC Alliance Partner of the Year. Enterprise software development, .NET, Java, and other platforms. Analytics and business intelligence, which is a critical component. I mean, realistically, you can't measure what you can't control what you don't measure. You have to be prepared to simply get the information that you need, and it's actionable intelligence that will allow you to make decisions that are wise and intelligent. And then managed services and support. That's also critical. You need the right sort of support, and you need support that an organization walks the walk and talks the talk and speaks your language, which is why I wanted to talk a bit about our parent company, Brandix. The Brandix Group is a $750 million a year apparel manufacturing organization that uses M3 throughout the organization. It's an organization that was an early adopter of ERP. We have a strong pool of talent. We hire people from our own organization to work for Fortude as consultants. We equally hire from the consulting market to get the best and the brightest. One of the Brandix customers, a long-standing customer, actually has been a strong member of the fashion industry for a long time. You may recognize the picture. And with that, I'm going to close, and I thank you all for joining. Please contact us. Please visit our website, and we hope to see you in the future. Thank you very much.